and his wife Pam to today's lecture. So thank you so much for making the trip. It's really my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Calvin Mackie. Calvin is a lifelong resident of New Orleans. He graduated from high school barely able to read. His path to college was challenging, requiring extensive remedial coursework, but he ultimately gained admission to both Morehouse College and Georgia Tech for a dual degree program. He completed his degree in math at Morehouse, graduating magna cum laude and as member of the prestigious Phi Beta Kappa National Honor Society. He was simultaneously awarded a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, where he later earned his PhD. Following graduation, he joined the faculty at Tulane University. However, his academic career came to an end in 2007 when Tulane disbanded the School of Engineering in response to the financial hardship after Hurricane Katrina. Following that catastrophe, the former Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco appointed Dr. Mackie to the board of the Louisiana Recovery Authority. And for those efforts, he was featured prominently in Spike Lee's HBO Katarina documentary, When the Levees Broke, a Requiem in 4 parts, and its successor, If God is Willing and the Creek Don't Rise. Dr. Mackie is the founder and chief executive officer of STEM NOLA. This is the premier STEM program in the country that has engaged more than 65,000 students, mostly underserved students of color, in the hands-on STEM project-based learning since 2013. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mackie to deliver the 2025 SmithGroup Lecture.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Stephen, and the entire Beckman family. Thank you all for having me. I'm honored anytime anybody asks me to do that which I think I've been put on this earth to do. I'm humbled to stand on a stage at a university like this and present my life's work. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. To the Smith Group, thank you all for your sponsorship and realizing that lectures are still important. You know, it's great being on a college campus and having discourse. Whether we agree or disagree, it's very important that we speak about what is needed and what should be happening in all of our communities. To the Beckman family, thank you all for coming out. It's an amazing legacy. Thank you for being here. And to the entire Urbana-Champaign community, thank you all for having me. To Street College, my friends from Street College, give yourself a hand. Give them a hand. I gotta acknowledge Street College because Street College was founded by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Will Patterson, who used to be a professor here at U of I before his untimely passing a year ago. And 12, 13 years ago, he invited me to this community to speak to a conference, and we became best of friends. And our vision has been, how do we engage communities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? So my presence here today is part of Will's legacy. So as stated before, like Stephen said, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I like to say I'm from back of town, Gerktown, Zion City. I'm from the lower 9 where we don't mind dying, Craig. I'm from that wild magnolia I thought I told you. I'm from that CP3, you know me. The only thing I'm trying to say is that I started from the bottom and now I'm here. And to all the young people in the audience who started from the bottom, who didn't have the background, who didn't have the socioeconomic pedigree such that people never thought that you would end up at a place like Illinois, I want you to say, this is not only possible, but much more. The education that you're getting here not only will take you to the East Coast and the West Coast, but it absolutely will take you around the world. I grew up in a house with no books. My father dropped out of school in the 8th grade to pick cotton. My mother went to a state-approved Negro high school. I started college in remedial reading, developmental mathematics, but I'll never forget when I was 9 years old, my uncle visited from California, and he brought me, Rich, an erector set. And while he and my dad was in a corner dealing with their libations, I took that little erector set and I put it together, and a car ran across the floor. And my uncle jumped up. He said, that boy's going to be an engineer. And at that time, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't spell it, nor have I ever met one. And everywhere I went thereafter in my life, when somebody said, what you going to do in life? I said, I'm going to be an engineer. When I got to Morehouse College, and I started Morehouse College in remedial reading and developmental mathematics, it said, son, what you want to be in life? I said, my uncle said, I'm going to be an engineer. They said, you realize that you're in developmental math? I said, I'm going to be an engineer. And after finishing in that Morehouse, and I went across the street to Georgia Tech, and I had to beg to get into Georgia Tech, and they said, son, you started college in remedial reading developmental math. Won't you pick something else? I said, my uncle said, I'm going to be an engineer. And I thank God because I stand before you today with 3 engineering degrees, because my uncle said that I was going to be an engineer. And every kid in America deserved what my uncle did for me. He spoke hope and possibility in me, Stephen, when I didn't even see it in myself. And we live in a country right now that makes sure every boy and girl touches a football, a basketball, or run track, and do gymnastics before the age of 4, especially if they're black and brown. And we live in a nation right now that makes sure if a kid gets football and basketball in school, when they get out of school, you know what they have access to? Football and basketball. We live in a nation right now that makes sure a kid who loves football or basketball or loves sports have somewhere to plug into every day, all the time, such that if they want to pursue that dream, it is possible. But when I talk about putting STEM in the hands of every kid in America before the age of 4, everybody look at me like I have horns on my head, like I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a young man in a cave in West Virginia who's strong as a bull and fast as a rabbit. There's a young man in the most derelict position, a situation, a community in Chicago who's strong as a bull and fast as a rabbit. Somehow coaches and universities, somehow they have a way to find them. And they don't ask whether or not they can achieve at these universities. They go and they bring them. And they give them wraparound services, and they create learning communities such that they can not only come here, but they absolutely succeed because it's the value proposition. They see values in their bodies, but I need us to see value in every kid's mind. Every kid, a lot of kids, 1 million kids every Saturday in this country grow up hoping and dreaming and believing that one day they'll be one of the 250 players that get drafted into the NFL and become a millionaire. Every Saturday, there's 1 million kids playing basketball, hoping and dreaming and believing, Craig, that one day they'll be one of 50 that get drafted and become millionaires. Nate, every day, every weekend in this country, every summer, there's 1 million kids running track, doing gymnastics, playing golf, rugby, lacrosse, hoping and believing and dreaming that one day they'll go to the Olympics and win a gold medal and become a millionaire. My dream, my hope for a place called America is that on every Saturday, every day of every summer in this country, there's 1 million kids doing STEM, hoping and believing and dreaming that one day they'll create something so beautiful and so great that they'll be one of the 14 million millionaires in the world, one of the 2,750 billionaires in the world, and they can come back to their community and show every kid what is possible and create an economy to sustain that area of that city for 4 and 5 generations. Now, maybe you cannot dream that dream, but that's the dream I dream every day. Because, sister, I got hope. And hope in the present is power. Hope in the future is power in the present. And when you got hope, there ain't too much people can do to you. James Baldwin said, the man or woman who continuously survives the worst that life brings will eventually get to a point where they no longer fear the worst that life can bring. I was a professor at Tulane University. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, Tulane decided to get rid of its engineering program. As the first and only African-American ever tenured in the history of the College of Engineering, I lost my six-figure job. Tenured. I'll never forget calling my buddy who was the president of George Mason. He said, man, the only way you lose a tenured job is by an act of God. I said, well, God decided to act. And Ms. Brown, 8 people had moved into my house. And I done lost my job. And the funny thing about it is that people say, man, how did you pivot? How did you go from a tenured faculty member to doing the work that you're doing? You left the university to create a communiversity. And I said, man, what more can the world do to me when you don't have no more fear? I said, what the world gonna do to me? Take my mama, I watched my mama die in my daddy's house at the tender age of 51. They're gonna take my community, I watched Hurricane Katrina wash it away. What they gonna do, take my job? That's gone. So the only thing left is for them to take my life. And I don't feel that because that's a fate that's for all of us. So I said, this is what I'm gonna do. If the only thing left is for somebody to take my life, Nate, I gotta use every waking day to fulfill my life's dream and my work. And when you suppress that fear and start depending on hope, there's nothing that is impossible. And the hope I had was for every kid to experience what I've experienced in a place called America. This thing called hope is real. I know somebody ran for president, used the word hope, and everybody mad at hope, like hope a four-letter word. Hope never did you nothing. Hope is the only thing that took us from where we are. Hope is the only thing that got us to where we are today. And guess what, Stapy? Hope is the only thing that's going to take us to where we need to go. This thing called hope is real. Hope is the thing that caused the old lady to sit down and caused a nation to stand up. Hope is the thing that made Tuskegee Airmen believe they could fly airplanes when their own government told them they couldn't. Hope is the thing that made George Washington Carver do with a peanut 100 years ago that Harvard's PhD still cannot do today. Hope is the thing that turned crackheads into teachers and pimps into preachers. Hope is the thing that made our founding fathers right. We hold these truths to be self-evident that maybe some people, no white people, no everybody is created equal. Hope is the thing that made Patrick Henry say, give me liberty or give me debt, and we fighting for liberty every day. Hope is the thing that took a black preacher in Alabama and made him believe that he can have a dream and change the world, and he got up every day and tried to make his dream come true. Hope is the thing that took Jay-Z from big pimping to a billionaire, took Mae Jameson to the moon, took Oprah from Mississippi to the top of entertainment. Hope is the thing that took a black boy with a white mama and a goat-herding daddy, made him believe that he can be president. Some people said no, but America stood up and said, yes, you can. Because hope is that little voice in your head that whispers maybe when the whole world is screaming no. And then there's when I grew up, where I grew up. I don't know where y'all from. Where I grew up, I thought my name was no. Everywhere I went, people was telling me no. Can I go over there? No. Can I go to the store? No. Can I get a job? No. Can I do this? No. Can I go to college? No. You think I can be an engineer? Oh, no, no. You think I can become a doctor? Oh, hell no. And to the beautiful women in the room, I remember when I was growing up, I used to ask you all the time, may I have your phone number? You know what you used to tell me? No. See, Craig, back in the day, they didn't want me, but now since I'm hot, they all on me, man. You got to keep hope alive. And if you keep hoping, you keep believing, you keep dreaming, and you get up every day and you put a nail in that wood, you can build something beautiful in a place called America. Our challenge as a STEM apparatus in a nation is to make sure every kid got a nail and a hammer to put in the wood so that they can possibly have that hope and that dream of achieving. We don't know where the genius is in America. We don't know where the next Einstein is. We don't know the next person to create the next killer app or technology to transform the world. And that's why we got to do the hard work of going into every community. And if you read the New York Times this past weekend, Thomas Friedman wrote an article. And he talked about, I've seen the future, and it's not in America. And he talked about in China, he called something called a Chinese fitness camp, and how the Chinese produce 3.5 million STEM graduates every year. Matter of fact, in China, if you one in a million, you one of 1,400 people. China has more honor students than we have students in a place called America. So we got to be about the business of putting STEM in every kid's hand so they can find their hopes and their dreams. You know, tomorrow I'm headed to Charleston, South Carolina, but I remember one day I was speaking at MIT. When I said I started college with a remedial reading, they had a young man start laughing so hard, they almost had to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And I said, what's so funny? I said, they got this dummy speaking to you, and he was like, ah. And I said, well, if I'm a dummy, show me your genius stuff. Because I'll put my resume up against anybody here. I said, young man, the problem with this country is people like you. You got privilege, you got hope, you got a pathway, and you're not living up to your potential. I lived up to mine. We got to make sure every kid in America lives up to their potential. So when I left the university to create the communiversity, what me and my wife wanted to do was create an ecosystem where every kid had this opportunity. My son, who's a senior in college right now in mechanical engineering, third grade, he came home and he said, Dad, I don't like science anymore. I said, boy, you're crazy. It's in your DNA. I said, when your mama was playing that crazy classical music to her stomach, I was whispering Newton's 4 laws to her belly. He said, no, Daddy, the teacher just talked to the board, and I like to do stuff with my hands. I said, son, we need to fix that. So we went out to the garage, and I started buying all this stuff. We started doing STEM in the garage. And my little son, my other son, he came over, and the kid next door came over. Before you know it, all the kids in the neighborhood started coming over. And I started noticing a change in these kids, their disposition, their confidence. The words they use that even changed. And one day my son came home. I said, son, what's your grades? He said, Dad, I got all A's. That's my boy. That's what I expected you. He said, son, but Daddy, my friends want to know how I know all this. I said, did you tell them you do this in the garage with your dad? He said, yeah, Dad, but my friends need this. Right then and there, my son realized that he had been exposed to somebody and things that his friends had not. And he realized in his heart of hearts, or he believed in his heart of hearts, if his friends had this, they'll be just as bright as them. And with all the empathy and compassion that he must have got from his mama, he wanted this for his friends too. And right then and there, I realized that I had a talent, a treasure, and a gift, and I was only keeping it for my two when this was something that maybe the entire community can use. Me and my wife, my son at the time was going to the #1 school in the state of Louisiana. And if he felt his friends wasn't getting it at the #1 elementary school, what does that say about Pookie, Ray Ray, Maria, and Jose down the street at the other schools? My wife and I said, no, we got to do something. So we took $100,000 of our own dollars to create what is now called STEM NOLA, which is a nonprofit to expose and inspire and engage entire communities in hands-on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We believe that when you do STEM engagement, when you do STEM outreach, the STEM engagement and outreach got to be intentional. It got to be intentional. Where you go and what you do, you have to be intentional about it. It got to be consistent. As Craig and I talked today, it got to be relevant. They got to be able to see STEM in their community. I tell a story about New Orleans, and if you go to do an earth science class in New Orleans, they learn about volcanoes and earthquakes, and every kid damn near just drowned. Look like we should be doing levees and wetlands and things like that, right? It got to be relevant to them. Because, you know, if you make it relevant to them, then they might get self-agency and believe that I can solve the problems in my own community. And it got to be community-based. What y'all doing here at the Beckman Center is absolutely beautiful. The open house is absolutely great, but it's also part and parcel to the problem. Higher ed is committed to getting people on their campus. At first and foremost, we got to be grounded in the community, such the community find trust in us, such that when we do have something on the community, they will come to the community. So this model that we build is intentional, consistent, relevant, and a community-based model. We're trying to make sure that kids get a pathway and an opportunity to deal with people and things such that they develop the mindset, you know, that they're capable of doing things and knowing that like people like us didn't pop out of a toaster. My kid grew up. My son is just got into he's just got into Georgia Tech and Michigan robotics program and a PhD. And people say, well, okay then, Calvin, you're a PhD. What you expect for your son? Exactly. That's why LeBron's son got is in the NBA. And that's why Archie Manning's sons are quarterbacks. But you know what? 5,000 people bring their kids every summer to New Orleans to hang out with the Manning brothers in the hope that they can get a lesson and become a quarterback. When LeBron got a camp, thousands of kids show up. So therefore, why can't we create STEM where we marshal in professionals such that kids can show up and learn from us such that they can get what they cannot get at home in their communities? This is our national impact for last year. We've engaged nearly 250,000 young people and over 50,000 families, but last year alone, we engaged over 41,000 kids in 14 states and 36 cities. As a grassroots organization out of the city of New Orleans right now, we are now engaging more kids in STEM than most universities with our model. How? When we was developing the model, we really had to be honest about the barriers to entry to STEM. I can't charge for STEM if people don't even know what it is, so it got to be free. I can't have STEM way down the street or around the corner if people don't have transportation. I got to bring it to their community. I mean, if people don't know what STEM is, I got to bring things to them in a way that they can understand it. I was just telling the street college people that we have the art and STEM of Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is big in New Orleans. Well, if I could teach STEM through the lens of Mardi Gras, now when they go to a parade, they understand this is a moving machine, the biggest moving art show in the world, and somebody had to build it and they could participate in it. We got to marshal the human capital and the technical capital back into the communities. That's why the goal of universities have to be to get the human capital and the technical capitals off of the campus and into the communities, such that the communities can trust them and then come back to them. Because there's distrust in existing systems of education in every community. And we could talk about a whole lecture on that. And also the internalization of academic inferiority. If I never met a PhD, if I never met people that achieve academically, what make me think that I can do it? Our model is to grow future innovators, makers, and creators such that they aspire to be in the STEM apparatus. What we do, we build a base of economic development and opportunity. The thing about this is that most people, especially my brother in the academy, we want to go to high schools and talk about we're going to engage these kids in high schools and make connection and get them ready such that they're going to the careers. High school is too late. I just hung out with the NFL during the Super Bowl. I was just with the NBA Foundation. The NFL and the NBA understand that they got to put a football and basketball in kids' hands before they get to school. We're the only people that think we'll wait later on that we're going to convince them. After the rappers got them, after Taylor Swift got them, after Lifestyle got them, after everybody else won them, somehow we're going to win them over when they're in high school. No, we got to give it to them when they're 3 and 4, when they're 5, such that they'll know this is the path for me. So we believe in early exposure. And our ecosystem starts from early exposure, and then it works its way up all the way through this pipeline. We've been in business now 11 years. We're now having kids who are now going into VC, engineers, kids in med school, just absolutely unbelievable. And parents and grandmas are saying, but for, how did my granddaughter, how did my grandchild even know that this was a possibility? Because they met people, they interacted with people such that they knew that they can do it too. How do we do it? The core components of our models is that we are centered in a community, but we bring all this stuff together. We don't bring one thing together. We believe hands-on mean minds-on. First and foremost, I told you about the kit. My uncle gave me a car, I built the kit. It's very difficult to tell me I'm not a bad boy after I built a car and it ran. So when you give a kid a computer and they build a computer or something like that, I don't need a standardized test to tell me I'm smart when I'm doing it every day. Matter of fact, if I start doing engineering from first grade and I do engineering all the way through 12th grade, who's gonna tell me I'm not an engineer? Intergenerational learning, I'll talk about that. Universal access. So that means we got to be where the people are and make sure that everyone has access. Early and expansive STEM engagement, cultural relevance, and we connect existing efforts to the community. We connect existing STEM efforts to the community. When we go into a community, we don't displace anybody. We curate the families and the kids and drive them to the solutions like the Beckman Institute in their community. And then we do this to increase the literacy, exposure, and engagement of all in the community. I just believe we're stronger together. Booker T. Washington said we're separate as the fingers, but as whole as the hand. There's people now that say that, how can you say there's strength in diversity when diversity is nothing but strength? When we bring together all of our differences, we can build something beautiful. So our model brings together everybody so that we can impact the community in which we live. How do we do that? And this is one of our favorite slides. This is the most beautiful slide for me because people are like, what are you talking about? I don't care what community you go in. If you look at these blue boxes, right, you got formal education in rural, urban Illinois. You got advocates and funders. You got mentors and ambassadors. You got summer programs. You got out-of-school programs. You got entrepreneurship. The problem is most people don't know about it. You got some people that know, and the people that's privileged enough to know, they find their way. If somebody tell that family, somebody tell that family, they find a way. I go to people and they have a summer camp. They say, I got 50 kids. I say, no, how many applications did you have? They say, well, I had 150 applications. I say, well, that's the problem. My problem is not that you got 50 in your class. My problem is that you didn't have 1,000 applications. So what we want for all of these different boxes is that we want to build capacity for all of these different boxes. For every program on U of I's campus, I want 1,000 kids applying from all over the state of Illinois. But somehow they have to know that. So what our model does is that we drop in a community, we engage kids and the parents where they are in their community, we curate those kids and those parents, and then once we have the information, once we have inspired them to understand that this is more what their kids need, then we drive them to the assets in their community that already exists. The funny thing about U of I, you have stuff here, and guess who really participate? All the employees at U of I. And guess who don't participate? A lot of the kids who don't have any relationship with U of I because they don't know if this is for me. If we could take U of I, put it in the community, now U of I become a part and parcel of who I am, and I know that's for me. They come to the football and basketball game with no problem whatsoever because they're really welcomed. When I walk into some of these labs, I don't even know if I'm welcomed. But if I knew somebody there, if I knew Dr. Mackie, if I knew Dr. Jones, we can do that. Who we impact? We impact all of the stakeholders. We impact all of the stakeholders, but we are community-centered. The problem is a lot of times we center ourselves, especially with the university. The university center itself. And guess what? When you center yourself, guess what? You never get to the community. If you center the community, guess where you got to start? In the community. And if you start in the community and center the community, guess where the community will come? Wherever you take them. So we center the community, and we have kids all the way from K through 12th grade, and we surround those kids from K through 12th grade with college students, and it's a value proposition. Stephen, is a value proposition. And we got to understand what's the value proposition for everybody. So here's the value proposition for the college students, right? Why do college students come out to our events? They get exposure to the community, they get training, they get mentoring, they get civic engagement, they get connection to employers, they get paid internships. Matter of fact, the employers in my community say, these are the kids we really want to recruit. If they're showing up at 8 o'clock in the morning to help some other kids, these are the type of citizens we're looking for. STEM employers, the professional volunteers. Professional volunteers get connection to other professionals. They get to give back and engage civically. They get a connection with the community. Even the professional volunteers bring their children interact with other children that they otherwise may not ever get to meet. And then they get to experience joy and hope. And then the STEM employers. I tell people, companies back what we back because we check every box that they need, or that they used to need, or that they used to give a damn about. And the boxes that we check for our corporate sponsors is that it check their corporate social responsibility box. It check their community engagement box. It checks their employee engagement block, the employee satisfaction box. It checked the public affairs box, the government affairs box. It checked the long-term workforce development box, and it checks the right damn thing to do box. And if you don't understand what I mean by checking the public affairs and the government affairs box, they're building the largest rocket in the world in the city of New Orleans, most powerful rocket now, no longer the largest. And I went to one of these companies, I wanted them to sponsor a Rocket Day. They wouldn't sponsor the Rocket Day. I went and talked to the general manager. General manager said, well, we don't have money for that. I said, well, tell your public relations person they about to have some relations in the public. And I wrote a letter to my state rep, to my state senator, to my mayor, and to my congressman. I said, please help me find money to teach these kids about force, motion, and thrust so that one day they can work over there building the most powerful rocket in the world. And I said, by the way, don't send me to that company. I just talked to their general manager, and they say they're not interested. And I said, as a matter of fact, since you all are leaders, won't you find more people that, to center themselves in our community that's committed to our children? 2 hours later, I got a call. They said, what you need? I said, $25,000. They said, I thought it was $15,000. The price just went up. I gave you a deal. Now you made me work. We did that event. And every event we do, we make a video, Dream in a video. We interviewed that person. We gave them the video when it was over. We gave them the pictures. We gave them all the collateral they need to make a case within their company. That video went all the way up to the C-suite. That person was on the video talking. Me and that person, we are real good friends right now. Love me. Got visibility before the CEO was blocking their blessings and didn't even realize it. How do we bring this plan to life? We bring this plan to life by building a model that allows us to go into communities and engage communities right where they are. We have a couple of programs that we are trying to scale across the country. Our scaling model have been certified and developed and helped with Boston Consulting Group. Our model is, it's like McDonald's, 2 off beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onion on a sesame seed bun. We know how to go into the community and do this with predictability over and over again so we can get the outcome that we need and desire for everybody. First and foremost, we have these things called pop-up events called STEM Saturdays and STEM Fest. And people say, well, other people got STEM Saturdays. I'll say, yeah, and everybody got burgers, but it's not McDonald's. So we have STEM Saturdays, which are thematic events around certain themes for up with 200 kids. Then we have STEM Fest, where we have a 30-foot truck and 60 stations of STEM, and we engage the entire community around STEM. For a STEM Saturday, we go into public facilities, a recreation facility, and with 50 tables, 250 chairs, we transform a public facility into a laboratory. Parents have to drag their kids in. By the time it's over, they got to drag them out. Because once they get in, they see 200 other kids and realize, I'm not weird. This ain't crazy. I'm having fun. I don't want to leave. On our STEM Saturdays, every kid makes something. So on Heart Day, every kid builds a mechanical heart. On Physics of Sound Day, every kid builds a Bluetooth speaker that works and logs to their phone. On Float Day, everybody builds a float. Force and Motion Day, everybody builds a car and race it. On Boat Day, everybody builds a boat and race it. And on this, people say, well, how did you get the people? And I say, look, it's all about communications. I'll talk about that in a minute. But if there's one ad, that's usually a very academic ad, that says STEM Saturday, Newton's Laws Day. Come learn Newton's four laws of motion and design, race, and build a car. Our ads say cars, cars, cars. Come design, build, and race your car and win $50 and learn about Newton's 4 laws of motion. Who doesn't want to build a car? They gonna build a car, race it, and then win $50? And as soon as Inez's car beat mine, what am I asking? Why? As soon as her car outraced mine, why? Why am my car going crooked? Why am my car going in circles? Why am my car slow? So now we could talk about Newton's 4 laws of motion. Now we can talk about how to weight distribution. Now I literally can teach you STEM. And the next thing is we have something called a Community STEM Fest, where we take 32-foot truck, we go around the country, and we transform public facilities into a STEM Fest. And our STEM Fest, everything is hands-on. A lot of STEM Fest is corporate STEM Fest, where you got corporations out there and 2 people sitting behind a table. It's like a career fair, and the kids just come in, they bored, like, why am I here? And somebody trying to tell you about a job. For us, it's not about a job. You come in and you get to touch stuff. You get to fly drones. You get to test windmills. You get to do stuff that you've never done before. We believe, again, hands-on mean minds-on, so kids want to see, touch, and feel. We've done this in Yankee Stadium. We've done it in the New Orleans Superdome. We just did it in the Obama Recreation Center out in LA. And people are having us do community-based STEM Fest in all of their communities. When we do these STEM Fests and we open it up to everybody, we're doing one in Charleston for Clemson University this Saturday, we already got 600 kids registered. And the kids just want to come out. The parents want kids engaged. I went to Georgia Tech for 8 years, got 3 degrees from Georgia Tech. It took me 10 years to convince Georgia Tech that they should have a STEM Fest in their arena where they play basketball. We had 2,100 kids in the arena. This is just the 3rd through 12th graders. The K through 2nd graders is up there. The fire marshal shut the doors because 400 more people was outside trying to get in a STEM Fest. We didn't partner with the school district. We didn't partner with the mayor's office. No television, no press. And 2,500 people showed up. There's a thirst in every community for STEM engagement. We just have to understand and know how to go into those communities and deliver it with fidelity and with integrity. This is when we did it in Yankee Stadium. Now, I don't know if you're all baseball fans. I'm really not anymore, but when I was growing up, I really loved the Boston Red Sox because I hated anybody that's playing the Yankees. But to stand in Yankee Stadium and see these kids from the Bronx do STEM was emotional. After that, right, what we do, the kids register, and this is what I sent to the politicians. We just did this in Columbia, South Carolina. We have STEM South Carolina powered by Clemson University. And what I show the president and the politicians is that we engage the entire community. This is not middle-class kids. Once I get these zip code, I can lay that over crime, educational attainment, unemployment, and show the politicians that we are engaging your entire community. And by showing them that, I convince them that they should be paying for it. If this is something the community wants, if this is something the community is coming out for, then why you won't support your future employers, your future students, in something that they need? This is Columbia, South Carolina. So the STEM Fellows Program. STEM Fellows Program is for 9th through 12th graders. Why we got a program for 9th through 12th graders? Because when my own 2 sons got to 8th grade, they were like, Daddy, we don't want to come to that stuff no more. They knew it. And I realized then I was losing my own kids. So we created this immersive program where we take these 9th through 12th graders and we give them immersive experience at architecture firms, at hospitals, construction sites, anybody that'll let us into their workplace. Anybody that got workforce development, we have these immersive experiences on the weekends. We give the kids stipends so that they can find what they're interested in. Right now we have over 200 kids, curated kids, in the STEM Fellows Program. This young lady was a national STEM champion last year with this young man who's Jaden. She came up with an idea as a 9th grader to create a watch app to monitor stroke symptoms. Jaden came up with an idea that he's working on using smart materials and sensors to make a smart shoe sole that go into your shoe. He's a sophomore at Morehouse College right now, but they're some of our most illustrious STEM fellows. This year, these are STEM fellows. This young man been with us since he was like 7 years old. This young man been with us since he was 6 years old. Brian wants to be an astrophysicist, and literally I put him on Zoom with some astronauts that I know. He would never have those type of opportunities. This year we had 6 kids who were finalists. Last year we had 2 kids that, for the competition, they had 3,300 applications. They picked 200 kids as finalists, 3 in Louisiana, all of them were STEM NOLA kids. They picked 100 champions to go to DC, and we had 2. This year they had 5,500 applications. We had 6 finalists, none of them won, but these kids are absolutely amazing. This is our future. So, what does this mean? The kids are really the Trojan horse. The goal is to get the parents there and educate the parents. So parents hear about STEM and they hear this stuff, and they know the kids got to get engaged, but once the parents get there, now we can speak to the parents about why this is so important. And that's when we can email the parents and tell them about your summer camps and everything else that you're doing on your campus or what you want to do with your companies. Last year we engaged 18,000 families, 5,000 was new families, which is a 27% increase. The beautiful thing about this, we survey the parents. People say, how you get parents to answer the survey? I say it easy. I tell the parents, look, I don't ask much of you. I ask you to register your kid, ask you to get your kid here on time, and we failing at that, we're gonna work on that. And the only thing I'm asking you is to deal with, Ruby, the currency that I have. The only currency I have is these surveys from my sponsors. I say, I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know who you slept with last night. I don't want to know your immigration status. I just want to know, is this helping you and your family? And we usually get about an 80, 70% response from the parents. But, you know, what really touches me is when 94% of the parents say that this helped them see how they can guide their children. 96% of the parents say that this helped their children think about how things work. And parents leave and say, you know, we have conversations with our kids, and our kids start telling us stuff. So now the mayor wants me to do STEM at night for the adults, because so many adults saying, we want to know how this stuff works. And I'm partnering with the chamber, and the chamber said, can we do this together? But the parents are the ones, if you follow us on Facebook, is the parents telling other kids, parents, you need to get your kid out here. Again, we have some amazing comments coming from parents. The main thing that we do in our secret sauce, I was telling Stephen earlier, is communications. Last year, STEM NOLA was honored by the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine as one of the top 20 science communicators in the nation, because we use every platform to speak to parents and communities. I even write for Forbes Online now. So we want to touch every community with some very clear objectives and explanations of what is STEM and why STEM engagement is so important. For our STEM Fellows program, one thing I want to point out is our partnership with Fox News in New Orleans. My son, I have my second son, he's at Yale, majoring in economics and data science. One day he came to me and said, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, what you want to do? He said, I want to use my voice. I said, like what? He said, I might want to be a lawyer or a politician. I said, no, I got to kill you. He said, no, Dad, I want to use my voice. So I said, look here, man, this is not about you becoming an engineer or scientist. This is about you getting the transferable skills such that if you were a lawyer, you'll understand this stuff. I said, how about do you want to become the spokesman for STEM NOLA? His eyes got big. He said, what would that mean? I said, every Saturday, you'll introduce what we're doing to the audience, and then you interview kids, and then you'll make like a video. And he said, yeah. I called my buddy, the general manager of Fox. I said, look, man, I got an idea. So now every other Friday, twice a month, we put a kid on Fox News for 3.5 minutes doing an experiment in a white lab coat. The general manager said, where are you getting all these brilliant kids from? I said, those failing schools. The last thing any parent want to know is that another kid is getting something their kid isn't. When they see that kid on the news, parents call, how can I get my kid on the news? Participate in the STEM program. We won national awards. One that I want to point out, I'm mad with the AARP because they gave me the AARP award, and they used my government name and face and put it all over the whole nation. I didn't know that many people read the AARP magazine. But we just got the Presidential Award from President Biden, the Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Math, Engineering, and Mentoring. They gave away 3 awards to organizations, the highest award this country give out for this type of work. I'm honored to say I got this in 2003, 2004 from George W. Bush as an individual. So when I left the White House in 2004 as an individual, walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, I said, I know how to mentor 50 kids. The real question is, can we mentor an entire city? And that's the model we've built. How do we engage everybody in STEM? So our goal is to go around and replicate this model and create STEM cities. Matter of fact, our name, our former name is Center for the Innovative Training of Youth, CITY. So we're trying to create these STEM centers for the innovative training of youth in every community in this country. We have STEM Mobile, we have STEM NOLA, we have STEM Central Louisiana. My senator just gave me $3 million last year to expand all over the state of Louisiana. We even have STEM Illinois. I see Ruby out here, my man Will. 6 years ago, Chancellor Jones invited me to give a presentation here about how can we replicate this model in an Urbana-Champaign community. The problem was COVID hit. We pivoted to virtual. AT&T gave me $100,000. We built a studio that allowed us to engage kids in 47 states and 5 countries. We were able to do all of these events in Illinois, and it was absolutely amazing. My hope today is that we can get that going again. Post-COVID, we kind of fell off because we was waiting for people to get stuff running. But we still have the website and everything, and we're ready to go. Chancellor Jones, my friend, who I had breakfast with this morning, nearly 10 years ago, we met in Albany, New York. He's the president of Albany. And I challenged him to come see what we're doing because his research is in public engagement. And as the president of Albany, he said, this is the greatest public engagement I've seen in STEM. And it wasn't until he got to Illinois, he called me up out of the blue and said, man, what are you doing? He said, you still doing that stuff? I said, yeah. He said, bring it to Illinois. And that's how we got here. And that's my man, why I'm here today, Will Patterson. They say, you know, people transition in 2 ways. You know, once when you physically die, but when people stop calling your name. I was never stopped calling Will Patterson's name. This was my kindred spirit and a member of the Urbana-Champaign community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ending. We have time for some questions.
This is the picture of that Rocky day when he wouldn't give me the money.
Thank you so much. First of all, I think your talk was exactly what people needed to hear today. I don't know about anyone else, but being reminded about hope was heartwarming, so thank you.
Thank you.
So I work with Ruby a little bit. We only have one Ruby, right? How can we replicate Rubies? How can we encourage other faculty and staff to be as engaged and as community driven as someone like Ruby?
That's what people say about me. They only got one Kelvin. That was the criticism when I first started. We can't replicate you everywhere. And that's why I built the model. And that's why I show you all the places we're in now, because there is only one Ruby. There's only one wheel. But I'm convinced in every city there's a person I call an edu-evangelist, right? There's somebody committed to that community. And if they had the right tools, they'll run with it. So we've built this ecosystem in a box now. And we're going into communities and finding that person and giving them the TA, the technical assistance, to do what we've done. The reason why me and Will was so tight is because Will realized, and I realized I couldn't come to Urbana and do this. It had to be somebody from here, somebody that has credibility in the community. Now here's the thing about your faculty member, because I used to be one of them. And one of the graduate students I went to lunch today said, well, what you don't miss about being a faculty member? I said, a faculty. Because they don't get it. And when I say they don't get it, I'm not trying to be mean to them. It's not who they are. I built this model because I'm convinced most people want to give back. They just don't have a pathway to do it. So we go into communities now and we say we are child-centered, adult-governed elder rule. So you imagine 3 concentric circles. Is the community, is the college students, then it's the professionals. The professionals and the college professors come out now because there's somewhere to go. And it's not laborious, right? We don't ask them to carry boxes. Just show up and be who you are. So like when Chancellor Jones came now with Rocky Day, he actually worked. And my wife, put the president to work. But he got so engaged because he saw these kids building rockets and he wanted to help. So the professionals and the professors come out and they get engaged, and then we let them be professionals. When they walk in, we treat them like professionals. We give them coffee, and especially if we having like a heart and circulatory day come up, the doctors coming, that's a whole different group. We got to have pastries and everything, right? And we treat them as professionals. And the reason why we didn't put nearly $5 million in the hands of college students, because we train the college students to deliver this, to set it up. And then when the professionals come, we don't leave them with a second grader. We got college students everywhere in that room. And then we have the staff that make sure everything takes on itself. So it's not about replicating Ruby. It's about creating a platform where other people can come and play. Yeah? Oh, yeah. And I tell a story about Saginaw. This guy came. I go fishing on Friday, and this guy was like, I want to come see what you're doing. I said, man, I'm fishing Friday. So this clown came down on Thursday night and called me and said, I'm going fishing with you. I said, you won't take no for an answer. We went fishing, had a great day. 6 weeks later, he started STEM Saginaw. And he's winning awards in Saginaw for the work that he's doing. He's that evangelist that wanted to do STEM in his community. And now people rallying around him because they want to support it, but they don't need another job. Question. Ruby?
Good to see you again. Thank you for your comment. I love what the STEM said, right? The vision. How can we just kind of make it ubiquitous, right, in places? And so I have a question. Are you doing anything at all with like quantum science and the university? I don't know in some of the conversations you've had. The university is investing a lot of money on the south side of Chicago with quantum science, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how can we get students, black and brown, all students there, and be a part of it and be innovators at the center of quantum science.
Let me tell you this. So we had a contract during COVID, Department of Defense, for $3 million. A friend of mine, April Erickson, Dr. April Erickson, eventually got appointed as like the Undersecretary for Education and Research for Department of Defense. She came to me and they had, the Army right now, Department of Defense, got 14 critical areas that they're really concerned about whether or not we're gonna have the human capital to do what we need to do as a nation. One of those areas was quantum. Department of Defense came down and we're doing AI camps with middle schoolers, and it blew their mind, right? So one thing they challenged me with, they said, look, if you could come up with something in quantum, we got you. Now, I didn't even know University of Illinois was this deep in quantum. But I went to breakfast with Chancellor Jones this morning, and I brought up one of my mentees' name, Thomas Searles. Thomas Searles is at University Illinois Chicago, and he's running a $10 million quantum center. So I've been knowing Thomas since he was 17 years old. All right, I got receipts on Thomas. So he and I are working on something like how do we present quantum in communities at its basic level so people can understand. So AI, quantum, it's unbelievable when you see these kids, when we start teaching them AI, how they're responding. And I went to one of my funders because the challenge was this. We wanted to do an AI camp, but I needed a camp for the college students. The college students didn't know what I wanted to teach the middle schoolers. So we had to have a whole week of AI camp for my college students so they could be in a position to be there for the 3rd through 5th graders. So we're working on quantum right now. At STEM NOLA, STEM Global Action, STEM NOLA is now our affiliate, STEM Illinois' affiliate. Our umbrella name is STEM Global Action. We now have 30 full-time employees, and at any given time we got 50 to 100 college students as interns. And we just sit around and think about stuff like this. The boat hit the bridge in Maryland. I was just with the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, and she was talking about it. I took out a picture. I got a 6-foot bridge now that I bring out to the community with weights on it. And we can show how, when you have different forces on the bridge, how the stress and the beams respond. We're doing that with young kids. She was blown away. And then I said, but we have a boat day too. And I got a 40-inch container ship, remote control. I haven't figured out how to put the bridge and the boat together. But we got both of them.
I think we had one more question back here.
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for coming and giving us again some.
Thank you.
I think my question is about your comment about the strength in numbers and going to the community, and especially what you said just a few minutes ago about most people want to give back. And I think, I'm curious on your recommendations on, I feel like sometimes our efforts to reach back to our communities is many in number, but sort of few in quantity and quality, in terms of there's isolated faculty that might be coming and going to Booker T or to any of the, the YMCA even, but we're sort of dispersed and not really connected as a community on the campus side. And what I noticed in many of the things that you've shown is just the scale, and it helps, right? It helps knowing that you're working with others and other faculty who are like-minded, who have the same aspirational goals. But as a campus community, I don't think we're necessarily super effective at working together to making sure we're not bombarding the community as well, right? And that we're not being performative in our efforts to go out to the community and not ticking our own boxes.
You're absolutely right.
My question is, what advice do you have for us faculty? Do we speak to our administrators? What do we ask for? How do we make a sort of more centralized version of this that then lets us build on our collective expertise and desires?
I got a buddy. He's the dean of engineering. I ain't gonna name the school. Well, he texted me before I came here, and I sent him a picture of me and Chancellor Jones. He's like, "That's my guy." And I said, "Yeah, but he's willing to listen when you won't." I told him, I said, "The more I talk to you, the dumber I get." I'll show you the text. Those are my friends, because I need them to do something, all right? I need them to get off their behind and do something. And that's my point, right? I go where I'm celebrated, not where I'm tolerated. Here I'm at Illinois. I got STEM grammar. I got STEM South Carolina. I don't have STEM LSU. My senator gave me $3 million. I have never met with the president of LSU. I got STEM grammar, and that's in Northern Louisiana, HBCU. I don't have STEM Southern, that's an hour away. So the Speaker of the House for Louisiana was in my office recently, and he said, "Well, why do you think that's the problem?" I said, "Maybe it's leadership. And we got to disrupt this. This campus will never come together the way you're talking about." And when I say this campus, I mean higher ed. I told Secretary Cardona, higher ed can't solve this problem. And I don't care, PWI, HBCU, OUK, AI, and sometime Y and Z. I don't care what it is, because it's not who they are. And even the National Science Foundation, every grant that used to go out, that ain't gonna happen now, at the end of the grant, you say broadening participation. 20 years ago, I was at NSF saying, we need to take that broadening participation money, create a center for STEM outreach, so then we can create a model like this so the professors who want to participate can. And here's the thing, Miss Lady, the ones who don't, leave them people alone. If you don't want to be bothered with these kids, if you don't want to go to the community, guess what? You're doing us a favor. Because the last thing I need you out here doing is demotivating a kid. And I'm talking about dream and hope. A whole lot of people having nightmares. I'm like, I don't want you around these children. so y'all know I'm telling the truth. That's why they usually don't invite me back. My buddy is the president of Georgia, because now I've been in this apparatus 30 years and I got people in powerful positions. I said, what happened to y'all? We've been talking about this 30 years. Now they created this magical, mystical pipeline that you've been talking about. Now you act like you don't see it. No, it's cowardice. You just want to be a manager. You just want to do the job and do the job like everybody else and make sure this thing don't blow up under your watch, rather doing something innovative. So we got to start with people like you, like Ruby. And a whole lot of people never showed up to do anything. I love the Superdome. I was just at the Super Bowl. 80,000 people. 80,000 didn't show up to build a Superdome. 800 did. You put something beautiful in it, they start showing up. This look easy. No. I mean, the city of New Orleans back me now. My senators back me now. No. I told you to put up 100,000 of my own dollars, because nobody would give us a dollar. But now we got something such that if we get started, I promise you, I ain't trying to get the whole university. I need the Beckman Center. I need faces. I need one institution to say, let's do this. And I promise you, the rest of the institution will come along. That's what's happening at Clemson. And the thing about these institutions, the president of Clemson, I met President of Clemson, he said, you mean to tell me that there may be a day when every kid in South Carolina say that Clemson brought them STEM and introduced them to STEM? I said, yes. He said, let's go. And I said, here's the deal. You got to get your people out my way because they're going to try to stop it. And sure enough, they limit it, right? They limit it because they can't dream this big. The academics say, we can't do every NSF grant I write. Well, this is too big. Too big for you. We doing it. How can you write a response to a grant saying this ain't possible when we doing it for 10 years? So the bottom line is that you do it and people will come along. And the beautiful thing about our volunteers, I got some volunteers that come once a year. Mr. Steve been coming every Saturday for 10 years. Some people come once a quarter. ExxonMobil there, when they're doing a turnaround on a plant, I don't see nobody from ExxonMobil. I know when the plant been turned around because people start coming out. We only do these events once a month. So we're not overwhelming the community. The community love that we are bringing it to them. Matter of fact, I will show you emails from Illinois where people are writing like, when are you all going to start this back up? Because parents in Peoria and Springfield, we were sending kits to them and people got used to it. So a short answer to a long-winded response, I'm an engineer. And what engineers do, what are we on now? iPhone what? 99? What iPhone you got? 67? They didn't start with iPhone 20. We started with our iPhone and we've been making it better ever since. And that's what's gonna happen. You gotta happen here. You gotta start. Engineers start. We build something and we say it's good enough, take it to market, and then we iterate as we go along. You will never get everybody coming together. All right, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Mackie. This was wonderful. We're going to now adjourn up to the 5th floor tower room for a reception, and then I'll hope to take some time to get a sneak preview of the Beckman Institute open house from 4 to 6. Former Beckman director Jeff Moore and his granddaughter are going to read our new Beckman storybook, Questions Led the Way, back here in the auditorium at 5 o'clock this evening. Make sure you get a ticket at the informational table out back to vote for the most interactive, understandable exhibit this evening. I will see you upstairs. Thanks so much.